Tonight, finishing touches, work almost complete on the upgrades to the Broken Hill Civic Centre. And Power Push Port Augusta firms up its future in energy production.
This is Southern Cross News with Tim Hatfield.
Good evening, but first tonight, a truck driver who was under the influence of drugs has been jailed after he hit and killed a Port Pirie man last year. Last year, the driver ploughed through a group of cyclists on the outskirts of Port Pirie, killing local Stephen Eberhard and injuring two other cyclists. Our reporter Keziah Sullivan returned to the scene today. She has this report.
Sean Anthony Daly appeared in court on Friday for his sentencing over the tragic death of local Stephen Eberhard. He was behind the wheel, high on ice and cannabis, when he veered into the group of cyclists here on Germain Road. Upon sentencing Mr Daly, the court heard a member of the public saw him swerving onto the wrong side of the road and reported it to the police. Patrols were sent to investigate, but it was too late. He had already cleaned up the group of cyclists. Mr Eberhard was killed at the scene and his fellow riders John Dennis and Hugh Patterson were seriously injured. According to the court, witnessing the incident in their rearview mirror was a police officer. Mr Daly stopped immediately after the crash and upon having his blood tested returned a positive reading for methamphetamines and cannabis. Further investigation also revealed Mr Daly breached several heavy vehicle-related offences, including falsifying work documents and not resting properly. Family and friends of Stephen Eberhard gathered in court on Friday, and in a statement the family said no amount of jail time will bring anyone back or bring any sense of normality to the lives of the victims and their loved ones. They went on to say they sincerely hope the sentence handed down will be a deterrent to others who willingly choose to put other people's lives at risk by the selfish act of taking drugs and operating a vehicle on public roads. The judge sentenced Daly to nearly 5 years jail time with a non-parole period of 3 years and 11 months. However, Mr Daly's sentence was reduced from 7 years thanks to a guilty plea. He has been disqualified from driving for 11 years.
Keziah Sullivan reporting there. Broken Hill City Council says the refurbishment of the Civic Centre is on track, with loose ends now being taken care of. The redevelopment of the city's feature building started last June and there's now only minor work left before its grand opening.
It's been almost a year in the making, and now the Broken Hill Civic Centre is drawing closer to its completion.
Work's progressing really well, and we've had some really positive discussions with the builder, and the view is that we're nearing completion of the facility.
Despite some setbacks, including the asbestos scare a few months ago, the $5.1 million refurbishment is starting to take shape, but there are still a few touch-ups being done. Telstra technicians are hard at work, and other jobs are also being carried out to ready the centre for the months to come.
We've got an event on April the 29th, a Shirley Valentine show. We have the Civic Ball on the 12th of May, and then a week later we have the National Party Conference. So, yeah, there's lots happening over the next month or so.
Over $700,000 worth of new technology is going into the centre, and Council says it'll be a matter of trial and error.
We'd be fools to think that that's going to go seamlessly, so we'll need to road test that and just make sure that the training's right for our staff, make sure that Telstra have offered to be on site to help us with any teething problems there might be, but we'll work through that.
Council also say it's on track budgeting the project, but won't know where it's at fully until all costs are in.
Once upon a time, the Civic Centre was really just like a hall that people used to rent. Now it's a high-end conference facility that will have all the trimmings, and I think people that have that know Broken Hill and know the Civic Centre will see a significant difference when they come into it once it's open.
Patrick Roenke, Southern Cross News.
A big day for Port Augusta with announcements from two separate renewable energy projects. Reach Solar's Bungala project has achieved financial close, while the Nexif Energy Company is a step closer to its Lincoln Gap wind farm. Our reporter Lauren Rose has more details.
Port Augusta has a proud history of energy generation, and it's looking more likely than ever it'll be a big part of its future too. Reach Solar has achieved financial close on its 300 megawatt solar PV power plant, the biggest in Australia. Construction on Bungala land, 10 kilometres north of Port Augusta's CBD, will start immediately, creating 350 jobs. The first phase of the project is expected to be fully operational by September next year. Heading 15 kilometres west of Port Augusta, and Nexif Energy's Lincoln Gap wind farm has entered power purchase agreements. This project hasn't yet reached financial close, but expects its proposed 59 wind turbines to be generating power by the middle of next year. In the past year, more than 50% of South Australia's energy has come from renewables, putting the state government's target almost 8 years ahead of its schedule. And this week, Treasurer and Energy Minister Tom Koutsantonis has proposed new laws that will let him directly control the state's electricity market. He'll be able to instruct individual power stations to turn on in times of need and be able to regulate the amount of power traded between South Australia and Victoria.
Lauren Rose reporting there. The first stage of a new Planning and Infrastructure Act has been rolled out by the Port Lincoln Council. The new act will feature an online portal to connect multiple councils in the region and establish easier joint planning agreements.
It's an act to develop cohesion for future planning on the EP.
Too often we get bogged down in the red tape of approvals. This concept is to have either regionally or even statewide some planning guidelines that are consistent.
The new Planning and Infrastructure Act will allow multiple councils a universal platform to review and implement expansion changes across the region.
Planning is moving to electronic lodgement and an e-portal, we're calling it, where it should speed up and make more simple the regular things that people need planning approval for.
The significant changes in legislation means the implementation of the e-portal will create a unified state, making sure everyone is on the same web page.
There needs to be a common platform that, and most of our planning mechanisms now are consistent with the rest of the state.
The streamlined planning system will allow for better management and communication of the rules and regulations between councils and developers.
People wanting to build houses, people wanting to develop, people wanting to grow the town, to say, how can we help, how can we make it easy?
The updated Act, just the first of new measures to promote growth in the region. Jason Kemp, Southern Cross News.
Water New South Wales is calling for expressions of interest for the design, construction and operation of maintenance on the Murray River to Broken Hill pipeline. The pipeline would draw water from the Murray and travel underground along the Silver City Highway to a treatment plant in the city. Construction of the $500 million pipeline is expected to commence later this year and be completed by the end of next year. Well, stay with us. Still to come in tonight's local news, a top cop on the beat, the superintendent taking command of almost 3/4 of the state. The details ahead. Welcome back. The superintendent for the Far North region, which covers almost 70% of the state, made a presentation to the Port Augusta Council last night. Drugs, misbehaving kids and an influx of criminals, just some of the subject matters raised.
A candid conversation with the top cop. Last night, Port Augusta councillors were able to raise their concerns with Superintendent Paul Roberts, and straight off the bat, they wanted to know what was being done to combat illicit drug use.
We're constantly on the lookout for any drug activity, regardless be it street level or more organised.
Superintendent Roberts referred to an upcoming online forum hosted by the police.
It's integral. Without public support, we'll never make inroads into disrupting that activity.
Another councillor raised the community's concern about a rise of misbehaving youth, reports of rock throwing, theft and intimidation.
We won't shy away from enforcement, but obviously we want to engage with other stakeholders, so other government and non-government organisations, but also the families and the caregivers.
Councillor Myers wanted to know about the potential for a bail house at the prison for offenders who are released after hours. That prompted a conversation around the 128 new inmates and possibly their families coming into town with the prison's expansion.
Just because you've got a relative or friend that's currently in prison doesn't, you shouldn't paint everyone with the same brush.
The superintendent is confident the population rise will be good for the Port Augusta economy.
They'll bring some positives into the community, and that'll be children into our schools, shopping in the supermarkets.
The extra beds are expected to be ready in September. Lauren Rose, Southern Cross News.
Indigenous students from across the region gathered at UniSA in Wyler today to learn more about a career in health. Organisers say recruiting more Indigenous health professionals will help close the gap in Aboriginal health standards.
High school students across our region are beginning their search for a future career. Indigenous students discovered what a career in health would look like at UniSA's Solid Start conference.
There's a big need for us to increase numbers in Aboriginal health professionals, and we can play a very important role in providing healthcare to our own people.
Lecturers and students from podiatry to paramedics gave teenagers a taste of their careers with a number of demonstrations and presentations, something previous generations didn't have the advantage of.
My parents weren't offered the opportunities that I have been, and there are opportunities out there for the younger generation, and they can play an important role in providing healthcare to Aboriginal people.
University Pro-Vice-Chancellor Irene Watson says with governments focusing on closing the gap in living standards, these students can become role models in their communities.
Is really demanding a focus and demanding a lot of resources in correcting and fixing the gap.
Ethan Powell from Samaritan College is in Year 8 and is considering a career as a health professional. He says he wants to help people overcome the barriers and become a healthier community.
I want to find a job that allows me to help other people in my country.
John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
Port Lincoln's local drug action team has been granted a lifeline to help break the country's addiction to ice. As part of a national program, the government has delivered funding to the Port Lincoln Aboriginal Health Service to develop a responsive action plan against the impact of illegal drugs. The $40,000 handout will boost community education and launch prevention programs to minimise the regional risk of drugs and alcohol abuse. To combat the ice epidemic spreading throughout regional towns, the government has invested $298 million over 4 years towards the fight. Wallaroo officially opened its new two-part swimming enclosure down at the beach last week. The new pool has replaced the previous enclosure and jetty, which was damaged in last year's storms.
Safe, secure and ready for the public. Wallaroo has gone without their swimming pool for months now, but last week the facility was replaced.
When we had the storms that hit May last year, much of the jetty was destroyed, and then again in September we had further storms that really did destroy the remainder of the jetty, and we had to demolish that.
The large structure has ample space for the public to move around, and you can choose between 2 different swimming spaces.
There's 3 shark nets that are strung from the extenuators that go around it, so it makes it a safe, shark-proofed swimming enclosure.
Local businesses are also welcoming the new facility.
We've got 53 people staying with us at the moment, and they were just amazed at how good it is.
Derek runs a local accommodation business, and already tourists are noticing the new enclosure.
There's been probably 15 or 20 other towns that have said we could really do with one of these, so it's just a real asset to the town, and it's just really exciting to see that you can have something like this.
And the council is already planning stage 2 of the project, which will include a platform so people can jump into the water next summer.
There's going to be plenty of depth there for people to jump into and enjoy those activities that they used to enjoy with the jetty by jumping into deep water.
In Wallaroo, Keziah Sullivan, Southern Cross News.
Well, stay with us when we return after the break. Why the Wyler Council is undertaking an audit of its artistic endeavours. The details ahead. Welcome back. Year 12 students in Wyler and Port Augusta have had a wake-up call to the dangers of taking risks while driving. This week, the MFS and road crash survivors travelled to schools in the region to dissuade new drivers from looking at their phones and showing off while behind the wheel. Brad Ryan from the MFS says he knows the road safety program is confronting, but it delivers a message all teenagers need to hear.
we find that's the best way for us to present, is just to be honest about what we see as fireys, and sometimes that might make a few people emotional, but we feel that's the best way to get our message through.
Broken Hill's future university students may not have to leave town to study if the city is successful in its application for a country university centre. The New South Wales Government initiative aims to allow more regional and rural university students to study closer to home.
Going to university in the outback could soon get a whole lot easier.
To have country kids remain in their cities, in their towns, living at home, providing it, maybe doing a part-time employment and doing a degree in university, which is accredited. How good would that be?
RDA Far West is pushing to put Broken Hill in the mix for the state government's expansion of the Country University Centres initiative. The first centre was opened in Cooma in 2013 and has since helped local students undertake distance or online courses.
We're working very closely with Cooma University in putting proposals through. We're also working very closely with Kevin Humphreys. He's also a very big supporter of having a university in regional New South Wales.
The centre would support a campus feel and provide high-speed internet, video conferencing, computer facilities as well as workshops with qualified local instructors. Many local students shy away from going to university in the cities, with accommodation costs and home sickness major factors.
HECS fees are one thing, they can be paid off, but the accommodation, living away from home, the fear of living away from home for the first time, it must be daunting on young adults. And to have a Cooma University, here style university in regional New South Wales, I reckon it'd be fantastic.
RDA Far West has already submitted a proposal to the centre, with council showing their support.
The RDA Far West and the council are working together with the community to achieve a goal which will be fantastic for not for Broken Hill today, but for Broken Hill in the future.
Patrick Roenke, Southern Cross News.
Wyler's flourishing art community is the subject of a council audit to determine how best to support and promote the sector. Respected expert Deborah Hughes will lead the review, and she says she wants to help make Wyler a regional hub for the art industry.
From the Wyler Art Prize to the Wyler Players and everything in between, the city's arts culture is thriving. Council has appointed Deb Hughes to review the place of art in Wyler and how Council can support the sector.
Great to see Sempre having little exhibitions. We've used the library, there have been a few exhibitions there, there's always things at the Mac, so it's nice to see more and more happening.
Ms Hughes says anyone with an interest can complete an online survey to help shape Council's direction. The aim is to create a map that not only promotes existing culture, but targets areas that can be improved.
Council might not be able to do all of those things, but it'd be a great place to start to have some concept of what the community wants from us.
Ms Hughes says Wyler's arts community is a melting pot of immigrant influence, mixed with Indigenous art and local history. She says good art makes a good community, and Wyler has the potential to be a beacon of rural art.
I believe that arts are really important in that, and it makes the place more interesting and vibrant, and that's what I want to see. I want to see lots of art events happening, lots of people involved.
John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
We'll stay with us after the break, the local weather as we approach the Easter break. Welcome back. Turning to the weather now, a mainly fine and sunny day again this Tuesday, 24 in Port Augusta and in Port Pirie with 22 in Wyler. Showers and 21 in Port Lincoln and a fine 21 in Broken Hill. On the national satellite, some scattered cloud is still moving along coastal parts, just generating a shower or two, but that is set to clear. Out on the Gulf waters, the winds to 15 knots and westerly tomorrow, the seas to 1.5 metres and a southerly sunrise at 6:38. So a fine and sunny Wednesday on the cards for most part, 26 in Port Augusta and in Port Pirie, Wyler 24 degrees, Port Lincoln also 24 with clearing showers, and a sunny 23 in Broken Hill. Then looking towards the Easter break, it is looking pretty good, 24 on Thursday and clearing up in Port Lincoln, the same on Friday, Cleve with 24 both days as well, Woodner up to 28 degrees. Wyler 26 for Thursday and 25 for Friday, Port Augusta 28 both days, Kadina on 26 right into the weekend. In Port Pirie, we're looking at a sunny 27 degrees both days, Clare with 24, and in Broken Hill it's looking sunny 26 right up until Saturday. Well, that is the local news for this evening. Don't forget, as always, you can stay up to date with us on Facebook and on Twitter. You can also get in touch via email, and you can catch past bulletins on our YouTube page. We'll see you back here tomorrow night from 6:30. I'm Tim Hatfield from the Southern Cross News team. Have a good evening. Good night.